Alright then, so let's have a look at news that were released. Not for me at this point 2 days ago, but simply 9th, so on Tuesday, about what's coming in 2026 for the whole franchise. As you can see, Age of Mythology featured here because they actually are going to be supporting it further. There were plenty of questions about that, but you're gonna be getting to it. The fact that it's gonna be an expansion pass and what's gonna be the content is... no. Not liking that too much. Apparently we're getting into the next level of milking, but I mean, like, if Age of Mythology players are paying for that, then well, they apparently want it. So, as we head towards the close of another year, reflecting on the 12 months, so we are, 2025 has been the most content-rich year in the franchise history. I'll be really liking to see how the PlayStation 5 have actually worked out for them, because based on the streamings, I'm thinking that maybe they weren't entirely that great, the results of that. Not sure if it actually paid for itself, because usually the streams, if you're gonna be seen from the consoles, it's gonna be like a sign that it was somewhat of a success. Because with Age of Empires 2 going into consoles, when that was actually released, then there were plenty of streams, so you could have said and could have seen it was a success. But with the further releases of all the other games, I'm not entirely all that convinced that they were having such a great return on that. But who knows? Louvre is having at this point some also slightly different worries lately regarding the thieves, and apparently even some plumbing lately. But yeah, well, Gamescom of course and everything else. So 70 million players around the world. No, that's probably not gonna be like active players now. That's gonna be like lifetime active. Maybe, no, it's definitely, no, wait a second. That can't be sales, because if it would be sales, that would be absolutely insane, because you have like 2 million sales for Retold. You would have to be having some absolutely stupidly high tens of millions for Age of Empires 2. So that's a bit of an interesting number right about now where it comes from. Because if it would be meaning 70 million players as sales across the whole franchise, even across the whole franchise, it would be a stupidly high number. So it might be kind of like all kinds of combination of historical numbers. So like HD, original game sales, extended edition and whatnot. That way they probably could be getting into 70 million. Because I'm not sure if you could be getting there otherwise. Or they could be having a number that it would be completely stupid nonsense, and that would be basically counting accounts in the game. But it would be, of course, including like players with 20 Smurfs, and that means absolutely nothing. So I'm hoping it's basically somehow based on sales, but it's an interesting number. That's gonna be somehow fudged from and combined of all kinds of things, so not sure. It's a strange, highly high number to me. So be curious where it came from. But if, for example, you'll be having like, I don't know, 50 million sales from Age of Empires to Definitive Edition, well, that would be something, right? But probably not. Thinking, would be liking to see the backing of this number if it's not some kind of misinterpretation. Because if you would be combining some sales of all the DLCs, all the games, I can imagine that being real, right? You would be having like 10 DLCs or however many there are for Age of Empires 2. Each of them having some hundreds of thousands. You could probably right now climb to this number. That this is... I'm skeptical about it in general. There's gonna be some trick to it. But we're having in 25, of course, the Immortal Pillars and Heavenly Spear, yes, for Age of Mythology. Knights of the Cross and Rose and Dynasties of these for Age of Empires 4. Also gonna be getting apparently some further DLCs, but yeah, they're selling well. The game is having decent player base. So that one probably is living kind of alright. Three Kingdoms, Chronicles Alexander the Great. Three Kingdoms, that was a bit of a controversial one for Age of Empires 2, and what kind of mechanisms they tried to, and they introduced and how they approached it. Chronicles Alexander, haven't seen and heard too many complaints about that one. It was apparently decently received, the same as the first Chronicles. More opportunities to engage with the franchise, welcoming new players with the releases of... Oh, well, the PlayStation, I already touched upon that. I'm not entirely certain if that was such a raging success, as maybe they are still trying to portray it to be. But again, You would have to be seeing the numbers properly, but based on collateral info, doesn't look that super. So hope that is paid for itself in there for them. And we made history. Coming the first gaming partner of the Louvre. Good for them, I guess. Share the stories of the Mamluk dynasty. I've actually recently seen even some kind of videos on Kings and Generals about that. But I'm kind of having a backlog in this. I'm looking at videos from 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. But Kings and Generals, absolutely recommend the channel for any kind of history videos if you're interested in that. It's a great channel, and I'm kind of interested actually and surprised that they haven't worked with them yet, because all kinds of other devs do. Paradox works with them on Crusader Kings and all kinds of other games, even like the Total Wars works for them and works with them, and all kinds of other games. I've also noticed advertisements in collaboration with Kings and Generals, so that's definitely an opportunity that they should be taking, in my opinion. But while we plan to take an end of year rest, of course, that's not gonna be there for any kind of new patches, I guess, therefore anymore in December. Grateful for the love and support. No, well, I wouldn't be entirely all that actually vocal about that, considering I have actually recently visited, for example, Age of Empires 2 Discord, or Discord Reddit. And there are plenty of complaints about the game being in a trash state regarding especially team games, but there is a long-term problem in Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. So they don't seem to be listening to the community too much. Just kind of like what they want to listen to, and that's gonna be the correct way to post it. They have to be, of course, saying it as a PR, so yeah, just don't believe everything you see from them this way. And don't believe also that all their games are flawless, because there are certainly plenty of problems. You might not be noticing them too much as a casual player and whatnot, but for example, the team games in Age of Empires 2, there is a major problem. Like, legitimately, it's a major issue that is actually turning players away in there, from what I have seen. And there are plenty of complaints about it for years, because there is an issue that if you are gonna be queuing for a 4v4, for example, for team games there, then vast majority of them will not finish, because somebody is gonna be disconnecting, either because of connection problems, or because the game crashes for him, or because they simply disconnect because they don't want to be continue with the game anymore, and there is no real punishment for that. And therefore players simply do that. So once they get, I guess, annoyed with the game, they go off, and that means that all 7 remaining players are having a game and time ruined. And that's kind of like the situation, because that repeats ad absurdum and nothing is being done about it. Yeah, the experience was way better on Woobly. And players are remembering that very fondly and wanting that still back. The user interface, or even just like the overall multiplayer experience, is simply not great if you don't have something like direct, like a tournament. 1v1s, I guess, are working decently enough within reason. And in 1v1s, you do have kind of like the punishments if you're gonna be dodging somebody. But the team games are just like apparently a bit of a cancer, no? They're not entirely too great. And I'm thinking, from what I have also seen, the experience is not that much better on Age of Mythology, for example, either. You have also right now players even still playing some team games on Woobly even. For example, Ulysses is one of the highest level or high level players who really enjoys playing the original game more even than Retold. And he's probably not entirely all that much alone on that, which should be a bit of a kind of sign, I guess, for the devs. But well, nonetheless, let's continue here after a bit of a, you can call it maybe some reality check or whatnot, if maybe you haven't entirely heard even the other part besides all the hype. But Londinium, yeah, that's gonna be some good action for Age of Empires 2 and Age of Empires 4. Good to them and good for them. Age of Empires 4 is gonna be luckily getting some better representation than it was on the last Red Bull. That was kind of sad what happened to them. So I'm happy for them that they this time gonna be having better tournament. Of course, still focused on AoE2, which is simply logical. You could be thinking, yes, Age of Empires 4, sorry, is having some decent player base and player numbers, but it's about viewer numbers, these kinds of tournaments, because it's marketing. It's not supporting competitive gameplay, never has been for Microsoft. It's about having the eyes on the tournament and on the screen and on the sponsor on Red Bull here. That's why Age of Empires 2 is gonna be, of course, the preferred game, because they do get massive numbers on especially final stages. If you're gonna be looking even like normal group stages and whatnot and start in rounds, if you're gonna be putting it all together, all the streams, and not forgetting about something like YouTube and Douyu, the Chinese streams and stuff, then you're gonna be still putting up really solid numbers. But on the finals, you are putting up tens of thousands regularly for Age of Empires 2, like many tens of thousands. Whereas if you're gonna be comparing with Age of Empires 4, they're gonna be putting together maybe up to 5k if it's a good day. And that's the difference. And that's why AoE 2 is simply getting a bit more support. Age of Mythology. No, well, Boyd used his main page, of course, for the finals, which is gonna be massively fudging the numbers. So I'm kind of hoping that nobody is gonna be making any kind of conclusions because of that. Because frankly, the main page doesn't do anything for you. You're just gonna be having fake numbers, and the effect on your stream is absolutely minimal. You just get cool numbers to show for sponsors. That's a good use, even though it's fake, but well, the sponsors not always know that it's fake practically. So yeah, but real numbers from what I have seen were like about 500 plus was the maximum for Boyd he was able to get on the previous late rounds, and good matches with Temista. Of course, Temista was the biggest pooler of viewers, of course, so yes. No, so we have 500 for Age of Mythology, 5,000 for Age of Empires, and 50,000 for Age of Empires 4. 2. 4 was at 5,000 and 2 at 50,000, so it's basically like order of magnitude difference. So if you are wondering about the support, yeah, again, it's just about that. So however many times they're gonna be telling you that they love the community, listen to it, and want to support it, nah, they are just saying that it's about the sales, of course. And that's why plenty of things don't get repaired in the games, but you are still gonna be getting plenty of DLCs with new content. Because it simply is the one that generates the money for them. Logical, it's simply business. Don't believe a corporate when they say that they care about you, because, I mean, like, they are responsible to be generating profit. That's what they are made for, and that's what their shareholders are expecting of them. But nonetheless, last week, released tickets for Londinium. They were actually pretty promptly sold off, from what I have seen. But that's not entirely too much of a surprise. So that's gonna be probably good fun. And considering that it's, of course, another year of the tournament, it's gonna be more and better quality, in my opinion. Basically, they have more and more experience, the people involved. So it should be pretty good affair, hopefully, without any kind of challenges. This time it's gonna be in the middle of London, so hopefully they're not gonna be having any kind of possible issues that they could be having, because sometimes hosting it at the castles, you might not be entirely ready with all the good internet connections there and everything. Here it's gonna be definitely a lot easier for them. Also quite a lot more expensive, so they definitely had to be making good money previously, because I mean, like, I can just imagine how expensive this has to be to even rent. I can just imagine how expensive it is in the middle of London. So yes, that's something probably to appreciate, I guess, overall. So in-game ladder for Definitive Edition will start January 2nd. There are gonna be a bit different rules, because last year, it was actually quite a bit criticized, and plenty of people were just absolutely, well, their lives ruined when they were having to be going through the ladder qualification, because of course you kind of don't know who you're gonna be meeting, therefore how many points you're gonna be getting, so dodging and trying to snipe the players, all kinds of course, stressful moments because of it. So this time hopefully it's gonna be a bit better. And they have an interesting system from what I have seen there, that basically like every week you're gonna be getting prizes for the top players on the ladder. So that's quite nice motivation, and also some kind of at least manner of reward if you're gonna be wanting to grind it. So I think that's also kind of nice that they have decided to spread it in such a way. Revealing more details over the coming months, let you know how you can get involved. I guess there's gonna be something more there for coming there. Playoff grand finals are sold out, but there are gonna be plenty view parties, even last time there were, and even before that. So if you're gonna be interested probably with some friends, you might be able to find something both in London and elsewhere. So I guess keep looking for some further information on that. Better looking women at Red Bull. I mean, like, the hostess wasn't bad, right? Last time it was Siox, I think is the nickname that she uses. I don't want to be right bad now, misrepresenting, but she was pretty good, from what I remember. As we were streaming, yeah, that was actually the last year when my computer gave out, or the graphics card gave out, when I was having to be streaming through the integrated graphics card. I was also doing the finals of the Red Bull through that. So I was having some kind of experience of it as well. Because otherwise I usually don't have time or even just kind of like motivation to be watching the tournaments and stuff, because I'm having plenty of it on my normal streams. So yeah, I don't have entirely all that much of a motivation to be looking at everything else as well at the same time. And also where I would be finding the time for all of it. No, but now we're getting into the interesting part, of course, with Age of Mythology. And that's going to be in 2026, an expansion pass. That is a bit of a scary thing to be posting as a first picture, because of course expansion pass is at this point just like a name for milking money. So I'll be kind of careful about doing this too much. But I guess today's players are a bit used to it already. So legends have expanded, heroes have risen and fallen, and you've taken new challenges. In 2025 in Age of Mythology Retold, I've seen your passion for the game and creativity in mod creation, photo mode and more. With the launch of Heavenly Spear in September, we reached the end of the promised offering outlined for our premium edition. This left many of you wondering what would be next for the game. Excited to reveal that you'll be getting your hands, or what you will get in your hands on in 2026. Yes, there definitely was a lot of questions considering the low player base, kind of, and what I have done with Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition. It opened a lot of questions, but at the same time there usually is about at least like a minimum 2-year kind of like a product lifespan. So it was definitely expected there's gonna be something more, for sure, for Age of Mythology. The biggest kind of like expectation were the extra gods for the other civilizations, but getting like a completely new civilization, the Aztecs still, it was a bit of a surprise, for sure. More than a bit. So of course also the dial down money for the tournaments, that was also quite a clear sign that they don't want to be investing as much into it. But apparently, I guess the Japanese or the Chinese, either of them, were selling probably decently enough that they paid for themselves, so they're gonna be trying it again. You'll be able to own 4 new mythic releases, with the expansion pass content culminating in the release of the game's most ambitious expansion, featuring the massively requested Aztec Pantheon. Ambitious expansion. What does that mean? I mean, like, frankly, Japanese were already fairly decent as far as what they have actually included in it and in what kind of way. So, I wonder what that means specifically. Maybe just some kind of new speak or not. Buy the expansion pass and enjoy the next 4 releases automatically on their respective release dates. Oh, well, we're just gonna be having to wait how much it's gonna be costing. DLC is, at this point, what, 20 euro for them or something? The other DLCs are gonna be like 10, probably, from what they are. So what are we gonna be expecting? 40, 50 maybe for all of them as an expansion pass. Now let's gonna go through them here. Exclusive rewards, premium value. Yeah, sure. Mythic variety across 4 epic editions. That's gonna be December 18th, so therefore in a week. It's gonna be apparently, classic right about now, starting discount. So basically the discount price is the normal one, and then you're gonna be paying premium for it extra. So new god spec, Demeter. That's gonna be the well expected and asked for, of course, 4th god for the Greeks. Become a force of nature, command the power of the harvest goddess herself. Unleash new god powers and myth units that reshape the battlefield and bend the will of nature to your strategy. That's a bit interesting. Right now, even what they are trying to say here. So you're gonna be having therefore myth units that are gonna be maybe just kind of like, I don't know, creating water bodies, removing water bodies. But can you even actually reshape otherwise on the battlefield? creating mountains, but mountains do not have any kind of effect in Age of Mythology, really. You would have to be able to create, for example, some kind of stone fields or something like that. No, this is gonna be interesting to see what it actually means specifically. And bend the will of nature to your strategy. So I guess maybe some more nature-based god powers possibly are gonna be coming up. Entirely certain how that can be working. You can theoretically have some kind of bird flocks or all kinds of ideas, because we already do have plenty of things, like we have earthquake, we have flood. So what else can you be thinking of? Some kind of, we have forest fire. So we have practically like most of the things already in the game. So what else can you be even thinking of? Hard to imagine, but apparently they probably thought of something. But then you have Ultimate Fan Pack, Golden Mark of Support, show your devotion to Age of Mythology with a support-themed collection. Adorn your temples and town centers with shimmering gold, display unique Pantheon icons, and stand out as one of the faithful. No, so we're basically right now embracing the skins. Age of Mythology is gonna be apparently first in that. Now, of course, the big question is if it's gonna be visible for everybody, or if it's gonna be only for you. That is right now still the unending question, which I guess is gonna be therefore answered here. How it's going to be, or if you're gonna be able to turn them off, as you can, for example, turn off the kind of the seasonal changes like the pumpkins and turkeys. Oh, that reminds me, today in the games we actually didn't have that anymore, right? Yeah, we were having normal relics. So it's already off, and normal berries. Only now actually occurs to me. So that's that, and then have Blood and Bone spec, beauty in battle. Witness warfare like never before. This visual overhaul introduces dynamic blood systems, prismatic essence for myth units. Okay. And evolving transitions that make each skirmish feel visceral and alive. Exclusive to expansion pass owners. So, okay, so basically you have removed from the game Blood and Gore because it was present in the original, and now you're gonna be selling it as an exclusive in expansion pass. Congratulations on... No. Money milking. Next level. But yeah, well, that's obviously something that's gonna be, of course, making plenty people happy. But again, it was removed from the game purposefully, and now they're gonna be reintroducing it, so you can kind of have an opinion on that. We'll see if it's gonna be something more than in the original. I'm definitely hoping that it will be, because if not, then that's gonna be definitely leaving some kind of sour taste a bit, even in the people who will be wanting this. But nonetheless, it's a kind of decent sign for what comes from the Aztecs, because with Aztecs, the last one here, Obsidian Mirror, Rise of the Aztec Gods, then there was a lot of talk always about them not wanting to be doing sacrifice and going away from the blood and whatnot. But if you do have this before it, then there is a pretty good like expectation that we might be getting actually a real sacrifice mechanism, or that they're not gonna be able to, or they're afraid of simply the blood part of their religion and culture. So you might be getting actually something decently representative of the reality, at least in some kind of way. The centerpiece of the expansion pass, one of the most requested pantheons in franchise history, finally ascends. No, yeah, as expected, that there actually already is a very successful mod, or was already for extended edition. So there were already tournaments on it as well. We actually even streamed here, like a match or two. So yep, that is gonna be also a question, how much they're gonna be wanting to take from that, or if they're gonna be just gonna inspiring themselves, quotation marks, and making it sufficiently different, not to be having some legal issues. But well, there were already, of course, plenty of situations like this before, so they're gonna be doing their own take on that. Maybe gonna be taking some heavy inspiration. They've already done that before with other civilizations, in AoE2, for example. But again, there's just like how it simply goes now here, that you're gonna be having a mod and they get somehow adapted. Hopefully it's not gonna be somehow too evident somewhere. I'm hoping not, that they put in the work. 12 mission campaign, sweeping, of course, 12 mission campaign that spans continents and celestial realms, wield divine monsters, call upon gods like Tezcatlipoca or Quetzalcoatl, and lead your civilization through an era of obsidian fire and sacrifice. This is more obsidian fire, really. Those two things do not entirely go together, but I understand what they're trying to say here. As of course, Obsidian is gonna be quite a bit important. I wonder if you're gonna be getting like a lot of things from Age of Empires 2, for example, like the Jaguar Warriors. I will be expecting they're gonna be coming. And they do have, of course, the Obsidian clubs, or the clubs and Obsidian kind of stuck into it. So yes, Obsidian is gonna be fairly important. Piece of it here, and this is more, and the sacrifice is already mentioned there, so feels like that it will be. I wonder if how it's gonna be actually done. If they're gonna be kind of skirting the blood in a way that it's gonna be like an edit mod, that basically in the normal version it's gonna be pretty benign without any kind of brutality and anything, and if you're gonna be having some mod like this, then you're gonna be seeing like the real thing, how it's supposed to be. If they're gonna be like dodging it in a way this way. Curious about it. But this is more than an add-on. It's a full-scale expansion introducing entirely new culture, pantheon, and divine plane style. No, well, why are they actually making this sentence here? I mean, like, everybody has seen Japanese and Chinese, and they do know what to expect. And of course, it's a new civilization overall. And, like, yeah. No, but nonetheless, I guess maybe just like wanted to be dispelling the questions, if maybe it's not gonna be something a bit lower. But if you're gonna be doing new civilization, you better be putting in the effort, so hopefully they will. Pre-orders start on December 18th. Of course, this is gonna be coming next year. Don't expect it early. It's just gonna be same as this year, somewhere in September maybe. Just gonna showcase on Gamescom. No reason for it to be released anywhere early. They're just gonna be going Demeter first, then it's gonna be the others, and then this. So just like expect everything every, I don't know, 3 months, maybe something. Who knows? But definitely second half of the year. Maybe like the last quarter of the year possibly. But yeah, nice that you're gonna be getting new civilization. Even though, again, the numbers are not entirely the greatest for Age of Mythology. It's interesting they're gonna be wanting to invest into that. But that might be also tied to what we're gonna be getting in later with Age of Empires 2. In the meantime, Age of Empires Mobile, that's, no, from what I have heard, quite a bit of a disaster and cash grab. But apparently PC edition is gonna be on, so if you maybe play it, enjoy it, or will be willing to test it, then I guess you're gonna be having some opportunity for that. Don't have too many words to spend on this, haven't played it, just know what I have heard from even players who play these types of mobile games. Even for those, this was not the greatest. It's basically like a reskin of another Chinese game made by the Chinese devs. But maybe you enjoy it, maybe it's fun. Well, I know. What do I know? I haven't played it. Not long to wait. PC edition will arrive. Steam Windows Store in early 2026. Available Google Play App Store since October 2024. Seen millions of players. I mean, like, again, it's a mobile game, so of course it's gonna be having millions of players. But of course, doesn't entirely, unfortunately, speak about the quality. But that's all the mobile games, right? It's simply how it works there. World build their kingdoms, taking part in massive battles to control the map. And from what I have seen on some of the videos, that's kind of brave to say. That the massive battles, it's kind of like overstating it. Sure, the battles maybe could be bigger, but in the end, it's just like few clicks and you're not entirely all that involved in it in a kind of important way. Optimized for PC. Players can experience the game with mouse control, full keyboard navigation, refined UI, and enhanced 4K visuals. Seamless crossplay will allow players who've started on mobile to swap between their phone, tablet, and PC with ease. I guess this is gonna be kinda maybe nice for somebody. But frankly, if you're playing something on mobile, why would you be wanting to play it on PC? Especially when you have legitimately better games, the original ones, right? Huh. But I guess they probably do have some kind of information that they are gonna be having sales on that. To ensure you're ready to go when the game launches in early 26, wishlist Steam Windows Store. Sure, I guess. Okay, let's have a look on that maybe therefore. Q1 2026. No further information, I guess, here. I mean, like this way, it looks very much like Age of Empires 4, doesn't it? Yeah, the icons and everything. Oh yeah, that is very much like it. No, okay. No, and now that's the second part. Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition heading to South America in February 2026. So already in a few months, we're gonna be getting another DLC here. And look at, of course, right now the theme. So remember when we were getting the Chinese expansion and the Japanese, and they were releasing for Age of Empires 2 the Chinese DLC as well, with 5 extra civilizations. And when I was gonna then, of course, switching between the games, they were definitely reduced assets. So they're basically saving on development when they are doing the same thing for both games, which is kind of business-wise smart, and also kind of explains why maybe we are even getting the expansion, because they're gonna be using plenty of the things there also for AoE 2. So we are thrilled to announce the next expansion for Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, The Last Chieftains, launching in February 2026. Exciting new chapter dives into medieval South America, where history and folklore combine to present an epic narrative, dramatic conflict, and our newest exploration of the ancient world. The Last Chieftains introduces 3 new civilizations, all of them for play in ranked, and each with their own unique units and technologies, as well as a new shared architecture for the Mapuche, Muisca, and the Tupi. Challenge your friends in skirmish matches or battle your way across South America with 3 new campaigns. That's kind of important that at least there are going to be campaigns for each civilization. That has been criticized before, that maybe there were civs but no campaigns. Also across Age of Empires 4 DLCs, and commanding the forces of folk heroes such as Lautaro, Pacanchique, and Arariboya. These campaigns feature memorable moments and characters like the Berserker Galvarino or Nicholas Durand, the swashbuckling adventurer, and the Muisca campaign can even be played from 2 unique perspectives. That's an interesting mechanism, depending on whether you decide to serve the noble Nemekwene or the greedy Kuemenchatocha, I guess. That reminds me of Heroes of Might and Magic 2, where you will be choosing if you want to play as Roland or as Archibald. Well, 25 years ago. 30 years ago is Heroes of Might and Magic 2. But yeah, that's a kind of new mechanism here, or new way to play it, so it's nice. And whether you are a passionate historian, an admirer of compelling storytelling, and a long-time fan of the Age of Empires franchise, or all of the above, The Last Chieftains promises countless hours of excitement across campaign and multiplayer, as these civs are gonna be also for multiplayer. That was probably mentioned somewhere, yeah, ranked. So hopefully they're not gonna be having any kind of extreme gimmicks. Already in the first reactions, of course, that was the first fear of players. I mean, like, there's some kind of like aura that players do not entirely mind and that they want to be having the new things, but actually that kind of is not entirely true, especially competitive. Players who are in multiplayer are not entirely enjoying it too much, the gimmicks, and the veer off of the classic Age of Empires formula. But I guess for the campaigners, it probably is fun. And again, if they have some good sales for that, then of course that's what they're gonna be doing. This latest expansion will be available for pre-order in January, and we'll have more information to share then, so you don't have to wait. Here's an exclusive first look. Okay, not much of any information of that. It's looking like a castle, probably. That's gonna be castles for all of them. Yeah, I have already heard an interesting comment that Tupi never were any kind of like a great empire. That could be a really kind of like neck to neck or shoulder to shoulder with the other civilizations, but no, well, I guess you could be probably finding some others as well in the list of the 40 civilizations in Age of Empires 2, so well, who cares, kind of, I guess, on that level. Age of Empires 4 brings 2 new expansions in 2026. Again, they probably do have pretty decent sales in there, so it doesn't surprise too much. It's kind of almost thinking that this guy is actually in some kind of tuxedo, but it's just gonna be some monk. After the huge successes of Knights of Cross and Rose and Dynasties of the East this year, we're excited to share what's next for Age of Empires 4. 2026 will be delivering 2 new expansions, the first releasing in spring. It will feature a sweeping story inspired by Chinese history. They are still kind of like milking the Chinese, but here's at least making sense, because Age of Empires 4 is having quite a decent player base in China. Quite a decent cheater player base in China, also should be kind of like added to that point. Because Chinese, they kind of see it differently. They have different culture, and for them, cheating doesn't necessarily have to be as negative as it is for us. They are kind of living by the creed, getting ahead by whatever means necessary. So yeah, but nonetheless, is the reality in there now, fortunately. Of course, not like everybody, but yeah, well, plenty of Chinese cheaters are evidently there. There are some issues regarding that in the community. But again, understand why they're trying to touch into it, as they're gonna be getting probably good sales there. Told by a new campaign later in the year. We'll bring yet another expansion, introducing to new base civilization, including the Vikings. Yeah, that has been asked for not ever since launch, practically even before, which we know you've been asking for, and building on our content offering for the Crucible. So DLC in spring, Chinese historian, and they're gonna be later in the year. They're gonna be bringing out the expansion. What did they say here? Brings 2 new expansion. So it almost actually looks like the first one will be therefore maybe some alternate civilizations for Chinese with campaigns, and then in the later in the year, they're gonna be getting the new Civs. I guess Vikings and something new extra. I guess the Spanish maybe, that has been also quite a bit oft asked for. That they'll be liking to have those there. Not sure. But we've heard your feedback around co-op missions for Crucible, and this is something the team is looking into alongside their work on the 2026 expansions. We don't have specifics to share just yet in terms of timeline, but we're incredibly happy to see your response to the new mode and excited to expand on it in the future. Thank you for a record-setting year in 2025. Your passion and excitement have made Dynasties of the East and the Age of Empires franchise's fast-selling expansion, pre-order yet. Okay. No, considering then the responses, not entirely certain how many people were in the end as are gonna be pre-ordering again. But I guess. Again, we just need to be kind of like dividing the experience of the players and the player base. You're gonna be having one piece that's playing only the single player, having fun with computer, having fun with campaigns, and those players are having almost no expectations. And they're gonna be just like gobbling up any kind of thing you're gonna be throwing at them, and they barely gonna be complaining too much. And then you have people who are gonna be involved in multiplayer or some kind of more kind of like seriously more in the community, and those usually gonna be having more, not conditions, simply expectations, and gonna be wanting something a bit more high quality and more in tune with the franchise and more against kind of like the gimmicks, as I mentioned before. So it's always kind of important to be keeping this in mind. And the second part is quite a bit smaller than the first one. So always from their point of view, from the dev's point of view, if you're gonna be thinking where you're gonna be getting more money, then you of course gonna be logically prioritizing the first group. And then, well, it's just the question how much you want to be a piece in the other part, or just gonna saying, well, screw them, they're just gonna be living through that anyway and staying with the game still. So it's really, you just kind of shouldn't be locked in your own bubble, that what you see in your group on Discord or somewhere on Reddit, or I don't know, in your group of friends playing multiplayer or on the top level stream, that's how the reality is. It's not really. So it's when you're gonna be understanding that, you're gonna be understanding better the decisions they are taking. Sometimes you definitely do see that if they would be catering a bit better to their biggest advertisers and kind of like the most devoted community, then they would be doing themselves better service, because they will be getting better, therefore, results even on the other side. But that is usually a bit too complicated for managers in corporate functions to realize, and they just kind of do have different KPIs to look for, which doesn't excuse them in any kind of way. And that's of course why we are getting new expansions and not fixes to important things. But that's simply how the reality is now. And you're just gonna have, the last thing is you can hope that maybe somehow some fix is gonna be making it through, even with these DLCs, but quite often, unfortunately, you're rather gonna be getting some new bug. That's gonna have to be fixed after, so they're just gonna be creating more work for themselves. But well, if you have been with the franchise for at least a bit, then you're gonna be kind of knowing what we are talking about here. But nonetheless, more content right now apparently for the franchise is gonna be coming up. Very surprised for the Age of Mythology that there's gonna be a new civilization. We'll see if maybe the second year is gonna be there for the last one. I was gonna want to be maybe having a look at Steam Spy. It is, or Steam DB rather. Retold us. And the viewers, or viewers rather, actually players, you're gonna be right now doing the max. No, I can say, of course, the launch. First DLC, I was having some nice spike, which was, you can say right now, slightly better here, few hundred more, but otherwise somewhat similar. It dropped into like the pre-release numbers, 3rd March, in about a month. In about a month, it dropped into the numbers, the normal ones for it. And here with the Japanese, it took a bit longer. You can say it now, it took like a week or two longer. Feels to me like maybe a week longer. And you can say it now, the tail was a bit nicer. Oh, maybe nicer, it was kind of similar, I guess. So pretty much like a similar performance. Now we're gonna be back into, what was the Sundays usually kind of, they have the Mondays in here, okay. So Monday 8th this week was what, 3,700? And that's kind of like, you can say right now, kind of classic. So we have gotten back to the numbers we were at on Definitive Edition. Again, has to be said, this is only Steam. You also need to be counting somebody from Store, from Xbox, as in Microsoft Store. But it's not gonna be as much as it used to be here. In like the first half a year, it was practically, I would be thinking, almost the same as Steam numbers. But now it has definitely decreased. There are not as many store players when you're gonna be looking through the games. Also on spectating when I was streaming community games a few months ago. So it has definitely dropped. So at this point, I'll be thinking that maybe, if I'm gonna be generous, maybe like a quarter of the Steam numbers, you're gonna be getting extra from store, possibly. Because of course the people on Steam are gonna be more stayers than the ones on the store. The store players are gonna be just switching into different Game Pass game and stuff. So yeah, there we go. And at this point, let's compare it, for example, with Extended Edition. So we have Extended, yeah, okay, it was actually searching for that. Extended Edition is still having, kind of surprisingly, 1,200 players. You can see right now it dropped. No, well, about like the release, of course, let's put it into 3-year probably. Release, of course, of Definitive Edition dropped it from 3.5. By the way, same numbers as you are having currently on the Definitive Edition, right? 3,500. It dropped into half here, and now it dropped into kind of like a third of the numbers. So 2/3 switched maybe into Extended Edition or left. Woobly is having currently actually some bit of an influx of players, like 50, 60 I'm seeing even on some good days. Before the release, it was having on good days like 150, 70, I think in. And before that, about 120. Before release, there was a bit more of an activity. So you could be saying that it also dropped to like maybe third. No, and Game Ranger is still having plenty of players, especially the vanilla community is quite a bit live in there. So looking at all the numbers, we haven't entirely moved anywhere, unfortunately. You're gonna be on somewhat similar numbers that we still had, if you're gonna be combining everything together. So that's unfortunately, of course, something that we weren't wanting with Definitive Edition, or Retold rather, but that's the reality now. But nonetheless, at this point, it seems like it's kind of keeping about these numbers, so definitely doesn't seem necessarily enough. And the gods for the matter, I'm gonna be getting to it. There's actually a video that might be helping with that on Wizards and Warriors. Gonna be having to rewatch that, because they were talking about Demeter and Persephone. I'm absolutely certain it's gonna be one. Yes. Pretty certain. I wonder if she's gonna be called Persephone or her original name. At this point, I can't recall what it is. She was changed into Persephone when she was given to Hades, but she was having a different name. But it's very probable. I'll be expecting her to be there. Maybe like a mythical choice, because she's of course important for the lore and everything. But I want to be showing Age of Empires 3. And the numbers here, what do we have here actually? Haven't even looked lately. Wow. So Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition is having 7,000 players. Can say it now, so maybe drop here at the end. And this game was axed. This game was ended on support. And we have Age of Mythology with half the players of this. And that's being supported. So that's why, of course, everybody was super skeptical about the full DLC for Age of Mythology. And that's also why I'm still curious how long this is going to be holding. Because if even next year is going to be looking how it is, and as it is for Retold, at that point, I'm going to be almost certain there's going to be nothing else beyond the Aztecs. But frankly, even the Aztecs, I'm thinking, should be considered a great bonus and boon. Of course, depends on the execution, but frankly, they're probably going to be putting decent effort into it. As I mentioned, it's combined with the Age of Empires 2 DLC, so the assets are going to be good, so the work is probably going to be decent. But yeah, just gonna keep this in mind. This game, with these player numbers, was axed. And you have Age of Mythology still being worked upon. So again, as I mentioned before, usually you have like a 2-year cycle for the game. And that's gonna be finishing next year, so with that DLC possibly. I'm still expecting they're gonna be having opportunity to finish with all the civilizations, to be having the extra 4th god. So maybe they could be continuing with that, because that's extremely low effort. There's almost no work for them. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was added even beyond, but next full expansion, I'm thinking not. Also, the Aztecs kind of seem like a bit of an interesting bank to end with practically, even from like this point of view. So maybe I'll be expecting that. But nonetheless, Demeter of Wizards and Warriors. If you are interested in Greek mythology, absolutely recommend, because they have recently started doing Greek mythology from the start. Where it is? There's the first one. I guess it's gonna be probably the Chronos Must Fall there for this one. I'm thinking there was probably even one before. Just gonna want to be giving you the link for the very first one. You can say now they're just going into Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Warhammer, all kinds of interesting things that you might be interested in. Here, Homer's Odyssey, that's maybe where it started. I'd be almost thinking, do they have like a playlist for it maybe? Oh, come on. Yeah, they actually do. Okay, so you can possibly have a look at this. And then the Homer, it's kind of interesting as well, because you're gonna be having Odysseus there, right? So that's also kind of relevant. That's actually legitimately just the only one. Maybe they're gonna be adding something more. So there's some interesting ones, and that was actually Demeter. Where was she mentioned? Jesus, man. Wasn't it here in this video?
Convinced Prometheus to let him do the job himself.
It's very interesting getting actually the proper information about all of it. There has some kind of short of this information here. No, not really. Okay, that was Pandora and her stuff. There we see somebody we know. That's gonna be our Demeter here.
As for Deucalion and Pyrrha, they had many children, one of whom, Helenas, was the progenitor of the Greek people. After the end of the cataclysm, things seemed to calm down for humanity. the world was set up as it is now, except for the fact that the earth was always bountiful and full of harvest. All this prosperity was due to the benevolence of the goddess of the harvest, Demeter. Demeter had a daughter with Zeus, who was named Kore, which means young woman. Kore was a great beauty, and soon attracted the attention of Hades, who desired to take her as his wife. In pursuit of that goal, Hades went to his brother Zeus for permission to marry the latter's daughter. Without consulting Kore herself, Zeus consented to the match, allowing Hades to mount his chariot and ride to kidnap Kore. According to Homer, Kore was collecting flowers in the Nysian field alongside Athena and Artemis, and at one point wandered off alone. When she did so, the earth tore open, and out of it sprang Hades on his chariot. He grabbed the young woman and took her to the underworld with him.
This is your brain when you're...
Okay. No, but nonetheless, you can right now get the idea here. So Kore was her original name, so I wonder if she's gonna be named Kore or Persephone. Do you wonder about
it's like
that?
Do not
Upon learning of her daughter's disappearance, Demeter fell into a deep depression and wandered the earth as an old woman searching for her beloved daughter. Her journeys took her to Eleusina, where she reared the children of the local king Kelios, and taught them to perform the famous Eleusinian mysteries, a series of religious rites devoted to worshipping Demeter and her daughter. Kelios built a temple in honor of the fertility goddess, and Demeter locked herself inside its sacred precincts, weeping for her daughter. Without Demeter to oversee the harvest, the land was now plagued by poor crops, drought, and pestilence. People, plants, and animals were dying, and as a result, no one was worshipping the gods anymore. Zeus sent many messengers to Demeter with gifts to try to get her to make the earth bountiful again. However, neither the rainbow messenger Iris nor Hermes, the messenger of the gods, could make her.
That's why she is one of the important gods, or goddesses rather.
The situation was growing dire, and Zeus became increasingly desperate to resolve it. Consequently, he sent Hermes to the underworld to explain the situation. Hermes revealed that Zeus had ordered Hades to release his new bride. The god of the afterlife had to oblige, albeit reluctantly. He told Kore that she was free to return with Hermes, but also gave her 6 pomegranate seeds from his garden. The young goddess ate the 6 pomegranate seeds and then left to rejoin her mother. The reunion of mother and daughter was one of teary-eyed joy until, to her horror, Demeter realized her daughter had eaten a fruit from the underworld. Hades had sprung his trap. In eating the food of the underworld, Kore was now magically tied to it and was bound to return. Upon being presented with this impasse, Zeus negotiated a compromise between all godly parties involved. For 6 months of the year, Kore was to stay with her mother on Earth. Those months consisted of spring and summer, when Demeter was with her daughter and filled with enough joy to carry out the harvest. The other 6 months saw Kore go down to the underworld to rule alongside her forced husband as Queen of Hades. Her new connection to the underworld caused Kore to be renamed to Persephone, and the seasonal nature of the year was born from her. The tale of Persephone was followed by another upending of the Olympian roster.
No, so that's exactly right now what you can learn in these videos, for example, or, well, other places on the interwebs, I guess. And that's why Demeter is and always was expected to be one of the important goddesses, and why she was supposed to be the 4th one, and she is. So yes, Persephone, I think in Catiranx is a very good guess. She's gonna be a minor goddess in there. We'll be expecting Mythical Age, most probably. And, well, the others, well, that's gonna anybody's guess who it actually could be. So you can get all the information on that as well if you wish. And I guess that's gonna be there for it here for a bit of a talk about what they have released yesterday. A bit of a surprise, and, well, we'll see. Frankly, they have put decent effort into the DLCs. I have definitely quite reservations about some mechanisms and stuff like that, but mostly in the original game, the DLCs weren't entirely that bad. And especially there are still plenty of things to be explored about the Japanese. So looking forward to how they're gonna be tackling the Aztecs, what they're gonna be doing with them. Specifically how they're gonna be working, how much they're gonna be taking from the mod, for example. So curious about that one. But well, we're gonna be having to wait for that, for the information. And if you're of course interested in the other parts of this announcement, then obviously look forward to more info about all of these on the Age of Empires socials and the Discords and the webs and games and I guess YouTube's streams and everything else as well. Drought seems like a good god power or famine. No, there's gonna be probably something like that going on. Yeah, that looks like a logical god power. No, that's gonna be certainly, it's a bit weird because with Demeter you'll be getting something to boost your farms. But you have already prosperous seeds and you already have rain. So what are you gonna be getting is a pretty big question, but it has to be probably something centered about that. I don't know if you're gonna be getting maybe like berries maybe extra, or you're gonna be getting some kind of multiplier on chickens. It could be all kinds of fun stuff like that. But since she's of harvest, maybe it's just gonna be something on the farms, some kind of special bonus on whatnot on that. Persephone, what she could be having, she's kind of tied through undead world. And maybe she's gonna be having some interesting mechanism because of how she's half a year on Earth and half a year in Hades, in the underworld. So maybe that's gonna be like a god power that's gonna be changing, same as you have Yin Yang with Fushi. That would be kind of interesting, that basically one version is gonna be dealing damage and other is gonna be like beneficial to something, giving you something. It'll be interesting mechanism if they actually manage to do that. So we'll see. But she will get something curious as well. And maybe there's gonna be some kind of further, I don't know what kind of children Demeter actually had. Is there something famous otherwise? Second child, sister to Hestia. We could be having Hestia, for example. She's already mentioned in Hestia's Hearth, right? The relic. So maybe that could be like an addition as a minor god, possibly. Through Zeus, she became the mother of Persephone, fertility goddess, and resurrection date. Oh. 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 So, I guess we're gonna be right now seeing resurrection already here. That seems very likely, therefore, for Persephone, therefore, I guess. We have had something similar with raising the dead villagers in extended edition with Neva. So I guess that's gonna be kinda likely. Children: Persephone, Despoina, Eubuleus, Arion, Plutus, Philomelus, Iacchus, Acheron. Okay, none of those are kind of something I would be considering known. Acheron maybe, though. Depicted as the entrance to the Greek underworld, where souls must be ferried across by Charon. Although some later sources, such as Roman poets, assign this road to the rivers. Maybe. That's gonna be somewhat tied to it, not sure somehow. No, we'll see what's gonna be there for next for that. So I guess that's gonna be there for it. Yeah, I'm not entirely thinking that Apollon is gonna be losing the underworld passage, but it's actually, no. So that we wouldn't be surprised that maybe actually Persephone would have been getting underworld passage and Apollon would have been getting something different, because it already was. It's a bit interesting actually that he gets that. Maybe. Or why is actually Apollon? Because Apollon is kind of like an archer as well. God of archery. No, but that's kind of like Artemis as well. Music and dance, truth and prophecy. That's of course why I have the oracle there and whatnot. Healing and diseases, the sun and light, poetry and more. One of the most important Greek gods. Twin brother of Artemis. No, that's why he's of course kind of similar to her. The most beautiful god. No, I guess the underworld passage, I kind of wonder when actually, and why he got the underworld passage in the first place. If it's basically like they didn't know what to give him, so they just gonna give him that and gave him that, maybe. Because like, I don't know if there's maybe some kind of myth about that. There's some kind of connection. To the underworld through his connection to death, darkness, prophecy. I'm hoping that this is not making things up, at least. Prophecy, dark caves, and even acting as a psychopomp, guide of souls. Rituals that cross into the chthonic realm. Ah, maybe that's where actually it comes from, the underworld passage. Oh, well, that's probably where it comes from, because it's gonna be like a not passage as a passage, but passage into the underworld through the right. So it's gonna be maybe like a clever use of words and transformed into that. That might be like a smart ass way to actually deal with it. Kind of. Maybe that's where it comes from. Possibly. If this is true, because again, can't be trusting AI too much considering how it works. But in general, I guess, some at least idea. Why Zeus gets Bellerophon when he is son of Poseidon? That's also an interesting question. Bellerophontes. Okay, this is right now in check. Why is it in check, this one? Yep, son of Poseidon and Eurynome. Before the days of Heracles, Chimera Iliad, the winged horse Pegasus, with the help of Athena's charmed bridle. Right, Pegasus to Mount Olympus. No, let's see this. He's angry Zeus, and he sent a Gadfly to sting Pegasus, causing Bellerophon to fall back to Earth. Actually, Zeus hated Bellerophon. Wow, he actually killed him. Completed the flight to Olympus, where Zeus used him as a peg horse for his thunderbolts. So yes, that's a pretty good question. Why the hell does actually Zeus have Bellerophon? And he's like his mortal enemy. Weird. But yeah, well, I guess maybe that's gonna need it to be filling the numbers in there a bit. But okay, that's gonna be that for it. That got a lot longer right about now, looking at now the information that they have revealed a few days ago. But nonetheless, I just wanted to be having something to go through, and maybe if somebody didn't see it, to spread the news about what the franchise is gonna be having extra and new in the year 2026. So therefore, I guess, thank you very much for watching here, and well, I've been Blackadder at Blackadder's Place. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching, and see you later on some further video. Thank you for all the info as well. Therefore too, Microsoft for letting us know that there's still something going on and something to hope for Age of Mythology.